said tempest instead of saying spear blunt. Spears flaccid.
What we can take away from this article is that very likely in the future cars will be designed with an electronic kill switch so police can remotely stop them. Society stupidly chose to designate driving as a privilege, so it only makes sense that if you want to continue enjoying your privilege, you must submit to give the police the option of remotely stopping your car. I thought up this same idea a long time ago. The technology for it exists, so why not? I read a comment on the internet once where someone suggested this could happen, and that person received a snarky reply. Oh, you into conspiracies and wearing tinfoil hats, tinfoil condoms too much? Yeah. Nothing I talk about here is some kind of hysterical conspiracy theory, yet people think it is. All that I mention can very easily come true. My fictional character, James Grider, who has lived his whole life on the run, doesn't like this idea. Why do people want to give up all freedom to the law, and have the law be the end-all, be-all? Why should the law always win when the law has been wrong about so many things? In the 1700s, there were laws for public whippings of those accused of adultery. Imagine if they had security cameras back then that would catch married women making affectionate gestures toward men who aren't their husbands. You see now how current technology functions as a perfect tool for tyrants. There are all kinds of crazy laws being conceived in state legislatures and city halls to control this personal behavior or that personal behavior. So how do you escape from that? This is why, to hide from the corrupt government, you should want to limit their tools of enforcement as much as possible. Expand zones of privacy where you can evade as much as possible. Push for legislation that prevents use of certain evidence in court, like digital communication messages. This must be done even if it lets some criminals go free and results in loss of life, because that's how a coldly logical person would think when trying to achieve something great. The Golden Gate Bridge was constructed during an era where, on construction projects, one man was killed for every $1 million spent. The Golden Gate Bridge cost $35 million, but only 12 people died building it. The bridge was built regardless the foreknowledge that some people working on it were going to die. So why not preserve privacy and freedom in the present age, like it was many decades past, before, back when technological innovations weren't adequate enough for mass surveillance, regardless knowing that it will cause people to die. Now, I'm the kind of guy who is afraid to stub a toe at work, but I am okay with the idea of saying that I'm cool with a few hundred strangers dying in order to preserve some ideal. Society, of course, will greet the idea of putting remote kill switches in cars with resounding approval. Average idiots in society will argue that since you have to pull over for the cop anyway, how does it affect the average law-abiding citizen to have a kill switch, a remote kill switch in a car? It doesn't. If you pull over, as you normally do, the cops will never use it on you anyway. It only affects the bad guys. And fuck the bad guys. If you're doing nothing wrong and not fleeing from the police, this won't affect you at all. On the other hand, a drunk driver or a criminal or a terrorist about to plow his truck into hundreds of people can be stopped before they kill someone. James Grider, who has been on the run his whole life, doesn't like this. Why would people give up more control over their lives to police and the government for the sake of safety? You never know how things will turn out politically in the future, what you will have to do to survive. Instead of having charge of your life, of your car, why would you let someone else hold all the keys to your existence? The average criminals don't hold all the power over your life, because you're allowed to flee from criminals. You're allowed to use deadly force to defend your life against a criminal. But that's only so long as the bad guys are regular citizens. What happens when the bad guy is the government? Does it look as if you'll be successful at running away and fighting back against the police and the forces of government? So why are criminals deemed so much scarier than the government? The only way to limit government is to limit their resources and tools they can use to control you. You can't limit the power and scope of government with some fucking handshake and a promise, like people expect nowadays. The German government tries to arrest and intimidate people who criticize Middle Eastern refugee migrants on social media. Democrats here in the US have mentioned how they would love to make it illegal to speak out loud that global warming and climate change does not exist, and to make it illegal for people to refute it. Are these the sort of reasons you want to go to prison for? Wouldn't you want to flee from police as fast as you can if they ever come for you for these kinds of reasons? Wouldn't you be glad then your car can't be remotely tracked and stopped before you can get across that Mexican border? Victims of crime are a fucking minority. Why should the majority give up freedoms for this minority? It's not like everyone got raped and killed because there were no security cameras and in the 1970s and police couldn't remotely switch off cars. Yeah, some people probably did get raped and killed and robbed who otherwise wouldn't have, but the number is probably staggeringly insignificant compared to the rest of the population that didn't get killed and raped by criminals. It's not like they gave up on building the Golden Gate Bridge just because 35 construction workers were anticipated to die during the project. Why are people giving up freedoms and forcing everyone else to do it? Imagine you whine, "I don't want a remote kill switch in my car. I will shoot up a school in revenge if you put a remote kill switch in my car." And then the self-righteous asshole responds to you, "You will install a kill switch in your car, or you will not drive and will have to pay a fine." We're tired of police chases. People have died from police chases. I don't break laws and flee from police and commit crimes from my car. This kill switch doesn't affect me. Why doesn't it make you mad to envision yourself in that situation, being talked to that way? Are you that brainwashed by your time in kindergarten, where the teacher said you will eat your broccoli or you will not play outside with other kids at recess? That would make you mad and make you want to cry. But then as you grew older, you gave in. So now if the government and your yappy neighbors say, "We want remote kill switches in cars so police can save lives," you will just happily go along? People divide good guys from bad guys like black and white, and anyone who broke the law is classed as a bad guy. Well, this is why people will need to read my James Grider book, because it depicts a character who has committed atrocious law-breaking, and yet he is right, and the government is wrong. And you wouldn't wish for James Grider to be hampered by video cameras or cars that police can remotely deactivate as they please.